Hi, everyone. I'm Brian. This is Alan. We're part of a team at WeWork called Spatial Analytics, dealing with measuring the intersection and optimization of people and space within our workspaces. So there's three trends happening around the way we live, work, and grow right now. People are moving to cities, seeking community and purpose, and looking for the opportunity to be part of something that's bigger than them. For the first time in history, a majority of people are living in cities. There's a rising generation. More and more millennials are entering the workforce, and they're looking for different things than the previous generation. And technology. Everyone thinks that automation is going to get rid of their jobs, when in reality, it's actually going to make a much bigger opportunity for people in the workforce. So where does WeWork come in here? WeWork is a global platform for creators. We provide physical space, digital services, and most importantly, a community for our members. Our mission is to create a world where people work to make a life, not just a living. In 9 years, we've expanded to 99 cities, over 400 locations, 400,000 members across the globe, yet that's only the beginning here. 30% of our companies are Fortune 500 and above, and we are the largest real estate holder in Manhattan, London, and I believe another one. So we've really just skimmed the surface on the amount of employees we can impact with an amazing workplace experience. So if we believe that there's 200 million companies globally, that there are 2 billion people employed by those companies, and we have around 400,000 members right now, we can look at this from the perspective that we really have a long way to go to be able to create better workspaces for the entire globe and to reach a much larger audience than what we're currently achieving right now. So what do we mean by a workplace experience, and what are we driving here? People are craving connected experiences, and companies need to provide employees with the right tools and the right space. So we view it as a convergence of real estate, IT, and HR, where real estate is focused on determining the right space for the employees as measured by profit, occupancy, utilization. IT is finding the right tools to be successful, measured on productivity and effectiveness. And then HR, folks in charge of the entire employee life cycle. That includes attrition, absenteeism, satisfaction, and everything to do with people. And together, they form this concept of workplace experience. So how are we going to build a great workplace experience for the majority of people? Well, larger companies have different needs when it comes to branding, culture, tech, design. And we believe we can help companies make the best version of themselves, regardless of the size of the company. So our Powered by We offering is a full-service strategy, real estate technology offering for companies where we configure the space in either a WeWork location or the company's own space. And we design, build, and operate the workspace all over the world so Fortune 500 leaders can get back to the simple things that make their company successful. So diving into the technology a little bit, WeWork technology team is bridging the gap between the physical and digital platforms, providing delightful experience to our members and connecting people with the space like they've never had before. A recent Accenture report threw out some numbers that were really interesting. This came out this past week and was featured in Fortune. Over half of big companies now use some form of technology to monitor employees' daily movements, actions, or the state of mind. 92% said they don't mind being checked in on as long as they're getting value out of it. And 79% said they're looking for suggestions on how to improve their time. So this is important because people are seeing the real value from technology and how the companies need to prove that value to the employees so they can actually improve the workspace and create better efficiencies. We talk a lot about the 3 E's at WeWork, efficiency, effectiveness, and engagement. And that's really how we measure our workplace experiences. Efficiency, dealing with spatial efficiency and understanding density and cost savings. But also, we want to be able to curate a different type of energy or social experience and drive sustainability. Effectiveness deals with productivity. How do we create connected, tech-enabled workspaces so people can work their best? How do they find the right space for their mindset so they can do heads-down work in a quiet location? And then engagement is how we create programming to engage employees and drive connections between the people in the spaces and encourage collaboration in them. In an ideal workspace, we can measure utilization and employee happiness while making physical space changes and adding employee programming to create a great experience and try to optimize for both of those at the same time. Because a workspace is an ever-changing place where we need to constantly adapt to employee moods and the way that people collaborate through that space. So Alan's going to show us a little bit about the technology that we've been researching and what we've built internally, and then we'll get back to some of the use cases that we have here.
Thanks, Brian. All right, so I want to point out that WeWork took a good amount of time to do proper research to understand the most appropriate technology in order for us to achieve the goals we had as an organization. And I'm going to kind of walk you through some of the details around the process that we went through for research and our findings as well. But it's important to note that our primary customer that Brian is talking about is really an enterprise organization. So when we go into these facilities, these aren't our WeWork facilities necessarily that we maintain and manage. These are enterprise facilities. And as you all know, enterprise customers have a significant amount of security and protocols in place to protect their employees and to protect their IT systems. And so we took the approach to assume that we would have no direct access or integration with any of the enterprise systems. So we assume things like no access to corporate networks, no access to corporate Wi-Fi, no access to physical security systems information, certainly no personally identifiable information. And when we go to a site, we want to make sure that we can instrument the location to the extent that we need in a very short period of time. And these decisions really drove a lot of the research that we did. And so this idea of a very restricted environment really kind of weighed how we did our research. And we looked at a wide variety of technologies. So, and in many cases, we ran small-scale pilots or proof of concepts so that we could properly test the technology. And obviously, each had their own benefits and relative complexity. And so we kind of ranked a lot of these, or we talked about these and grouped a lot of these technologies, what we refer to as low to high touch. And I'm going to kind of walk through some of them left to right, low to high. Obviously, wireless sensors. This is a really low-touch implementation. They're very easy to install. They're portable, as is demonstrated out on the floor today. And it enabled us to do things like environmental monitoring and also space utilization, area occupancy. We also took a look at badges, and badges can be in the form of RFID, physical security badges. They can also be in the form of kind of reverse beaconing is a term we use, where the badge that you're wearing is actually the beacon, and you're being tracked as you move around the space. So we took a look at that, and that enabled some additional kind of points of data: area dwell time, activity, department behavior, demographic behavior. And then you can also do a more traditional beacon. And this is where it gets a little bit more complex, because you need some sort of intelligent application. And in an enterprise environment, deploying applications on mobile devices, if that's the case, becomes a little bit more complex, a little bit higher touch. But you are able to enable things like personal behavior and actual contextual feedback in the location. And then lastly, we took a look at, and we continue to take a look at, computer vision technology, which really enables a high level of fidelity. So you can start to look at real high degree of people counting. You can also start to look at object recognition and activity detection. But ultimately, we settled on the use of wireless technology as our initial implementation because it had such a low barrier to entry, really kind of low touch. And so we started at that point to really look at wireless research. What could we use in the wireless environment? And obviously, things like Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, Zigbee, these are well established in our industry. But we had some concerns about range, how many gateways or WAPs you need to be able to instrument a facility. We also had some concerns about the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum within the built environment and the possibility of congestion at that spectrum. And so we started to turn our attention to LPWAN technology. And we felt that this was really kind of the sweet spot for our needs and what we were doing. Our sensors packets small data. LPWAN has great range, battery life. And specifically with LoRa, we were able to deploy our own private network, which was an added benefit for us. And of course, we didn't rule out the use of NB-IoT or LTE. But for us, the product marketplace, it just wasn't there yet for our needs. And ultimately, we settled on LoRa, and the LoRaWAN stack is kind of evident from us being here. And so how did LoRaWAN and the Things Network enable us to build out the Insights product that Brian was talking to? And first, the thing that was really important to us was the product marketplace. At WeWork, we were able to buy all of our equipment, all of the devices that we needed for instrumentation off the shelf. And that was a huge benefit. And in addition to that, the integrations and the interoperability of the network server enabled us to connect to our existing data and back-end systems right out the gate. During the testing and prototyping phase, we were able to take advantage of the Things Network public network that enabled us to prototype software and hardware as needed before we eventually moved on into production. And after proving out those concepts for the product, we relied heavily on the Things industries to help us deploy, manage, and scale our private network, as well as providing technical support and guidance for LoRaWAN best practices. So the Things Network and LoRaWAN, they gave us basically all the building blocks that we needed to do what we needed to do, but we still had a lot of internal development that we needed to do. We needed to go out and be able to actually instrument these sites. And so we need to be able to deploy equipment and devices quickly in these customer locations. So in order to do that, effectively, we developed our own mobile deployment application. And this allowed us to securely onboard gateways and sensors just by scanning barcodes, and more importantly, to be able to apply the spatial context with these devices. It also enabled a verification process so that the installers had feedback to make sure that all the devices were coming online and connected and working properly before they left the location. And now that we had the sites instrumented, this allowed us to start to focus on the actual customer value that we were providing with the Insights product. So we could quickly prototype various insights and visualizations before integrating into the production application. And by combining the locational context that I referred to with the Insights, we could provide both real-time and historical utilization data to drive customer recommendations. And lastly, with everything up and running, we really need to make sure that everything continued to run smoothly. And so we leveraged the network server and the integrations and the APIs to help monitor devices, device statuses, network traffic, and send us alerts of any potential issues that we might see. So I'm going to turn it back over to Brian to talk a little bit more about the product itself.
Yeah. So I want to drill in a little bit on what we've actually done here and what the key benefits are for the end users. So we've broke it up into essentially 3 personas that get end user value. Real estate, employees, and the IT admins. The IT admins really want turnkey installation. They want to have us handle everything, not connected to their network, be able to come in quickly and wirelessly and just drop sensors into their space to understand what's happening. The employee is looking for real-time availability and to actually have their workplace be made better. On the real estate side, we focused on identifying imbalances between space allocation and space usage, comparing square footage versus the actual utilization percentage. So we're looking at things in the bottom right corner of the scatter plot, something that has a large footprint and a low utilization, and trying to move it up into the upper left that has a small footprint and high utilization. We're looking for those imbalances that we can correct ourselves, because the unique advantage for WeWork is that we often control the physical space or can make recommendations on how to change that space. And this actually helps us meet the needs and the work patterns of the humans that occupy that space. As an example, we worked with an enterprise company in Miami that has an executive briefing center for a Latin American sales team. We went into the space. I believe we installed around 100 individual sensors to measure per seat occupancy. This was the level of detail that we needed for this location. They had around 160 employees have access to that space. It didn't have that many seats, but not everyone was there at the same time. We were looking for utilization patterns across the space and to see what we can do to achieve better efficiency. We ended up learning that it was never fully utilized. It never felt crowded. They can increase the amount of employees that had access to the space up to 300 employees at any given time without making the space feel as though it was too crowded or that no one could ever find physical space to do their work. So that's just one example of us understanding the dynamics within the physical space by using this really non-invasive, passive technology to understand it a bit further. And once we know how often the rooms are used, we can ask things like, how efficiently are the seats used? And once we know how often that's used, we can look at things like, what amenities do we need? Where do people sit in the room? Do they use the whiteboards? How do we look at the placement of TVs and microphones in the room? We can understand the dynamics of the individual room by the granularity at which we put different technology into that space. So where are we going with this? WeWork recently acquired a company focused on workplace experience called Team that develops guest management and space booking utilities. We're merging our Insights product with them so we can have a much larger impact on the workplace experience. Over time, as we add more data sources, such as Wi-Fi analytics, access control, we can have a much deeper understanding of the interaction of people in space. And if there's kind of one key takeaway here that I really want people to understand is there's a massive opportunity with IoT, connectivity, and all these devices to understand and shape the workplace experience for everyone. And moving beyond the traditional applications of what we've seen with different sensor technology, because the workplace is really ripe for change and how people can go about their daily lives and achieve a better experience throughout their day. So that's it for us. Just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Workspace.